Welcome to this video. My name is Abdi Hamisi and I'm joined by my colleague Steve Boardman, and between us today we're going to take you through a presentation on simplifying the challenges of modern service management. We'll have a look at some of the challenges that Hornbill seeks to address for our customers and take you through a brief product overview so you can get to see a little bit of what the Hornbill solution does. So let's get underway. The first thing I thought we could do here was to briefly take a look at some of these challenges and to frame the context in which we present these. So first and foremost, this is by no means an exhaustive list. This is purely a subset of the key challenges that we've identified in our dealings with many customers and organizations over the 20 years that Hornbill has been in the service management space. And so really what we're looking at here is sort of, I guess, a summary of the 5 key areas that we see as problematic, that customers repeatedly point out to us as being central to their rationale for engaging and looking for a new service management solution of some description. And so that's the aim of today's presentation, is really just to highlight these 5 things and then to look at some of the ways in which Hornbill seeks to address those for you as a customer. So let's get underway. The first one we're going to look at here is upgrades. And this one is probably the most prevalent area that we see coming up when we're engaging with people around new service management solutions, the challenge around upgrades. Whether that's an on-premise solution that's being used, or whether that's what I might regard as a first-generation SaaS solution, upgrades are an inevitable piece of work that has to be undertaken in order to take advantage of the latest features or functionality available from the vendor. And as I say, whether that's on-premise or cloud-based, these are actions that have to be undertaken, which typically means some kind of project which involves planning, executing, rolling out, testing these upgrades in order to get those new features. And as it says up here, they are expensive, they are time consuming, and one of the challenges we've seen is that the longer you leave the upgrade, the bigger that gap becomes, the harder it becomes to take that step and make that upgrade happen itself. The second area is around customizations. Now again, this perhaps goes hand in hand somewhat with the area of upgrades, but customizations in their own right are inevitable, as IT service management typically involves working with your processes and your procedures, which means some element of tailoring is required to any service management solution in order to make it fit for purpose within your organization. The challenge here is that each customization that typically gets applied ends up meaning an investment in time and resource, and the challenge that we often see is that customization then puts you in a position where at time of upgrade, these customizations typically need to either be reapplied or set aside in order to take advantage of the upgrade. And again, that's a costly and time consuming exercise by anyone's imagination. The third area is really around complexity. Now, IT service management itself is complex, and the tools that are delivered to support that infrastructure and that environment is by definition a very complex type of solution. And what comes with that is a need and a requirement for significant knowledge and expertise internally on how to maintain and manage those solutions. And the challenge that we hear about here constantly is that you as an organization, you invest in time and you invest in resource to train people up, to get them up to the level of skills to understand and know how to manage your service management solution. But at some point, it's inevitable that people move on, get promoted, find new challenges. And the challenge we see there is that you often find organizations lacking in internal expertise, and as a result they end up having to go to market to look for a new solution because the expertise that was there that built the solution up to the point where it was required may have left, or maybe costly to bring back in, if you like. The fourth area here is around usability, and I guess this is perhaps borne out a lot in part to the change in the way that consumer apps have made us see and view the world, if you like. In the past 5 to 8 years, consumer apps have come a long way, and we all expect to engage and communicate and interact with very slick, mobile-friendly applications that are always on, that's always available, that it gives us immediate access to stuff. And this is something that hasn't translated fully into the business world, if you like, in terms of business apps. And so whilst most IT service management or service management solutions are very powerful, they're not typically that intuitive and by today's standards, and so that's something that comes up fairly regularly. One of the other things that we've sort of observed, perhaps more than seen as a factor for people going out to the market, is the fact that people tend to find themselves leaving their service management solution in order to communicate effectively with colleagues. And in this, modern day and age of, social and mobile, one could reasonably expect to be able to do a lot more in terms of communication on board the service management tool without having to step out into email or other collaboration channels to do that. So this is something else that we've seen as an observation in the marketplace. So having touched on those four key areas, the last or the fifth of those areas is the cost of ownership. And needless to say, in today's environment, costs are always under scrutiny. But the challenges that we've identified so far each adds to the cost of ownership that one has to expect when dealing with a service management solution, and a constant requirement that we have inside of businesses today is to review and to make sure that we're being as efficient as possible and trying to mitigate any unnecessary costs. So one of the things that we as an organisation have tried to do is to take that into account when putting together our solution and our offering, to make sure that there are no hidden costs, and as an organisation one has a clear understanding of what the overall costs of a Hornbill solution are. Okay. So having identified the costs, what have Hornbill done to try and address those for our customers? Well, we took a step back and had a look at the market, and we took a good hard look at what the technology capabilities were that were available to us, because in the 20 years that we've been making service management solutions, a lot has changed. And due to the advent of social, mobile, cloud, and a whole host of other technological advances, Hornbill's been able to step back and build what we've perhaps deemed as a simple but powerful idea, and we'll try and articulate that for you now. So first and foremost, what is Hornbill? Well, Hornbill is essentially a collaboration platform. It's designed for team and enterprise collaboration. It's at its heart a tool that allows people to engage, communicate, and to much more readily share and communicate knowledge and expertise between individuals and groups. So at its essence, Hornbill is a collaboration platform, and that in its own right is great. However, our experience of pure play collaboration tools is that you still at some point have to step out of your collaboration tool and back into your service desk tool or your CRM tool to actually go about doing your daily job, if you like, the business of keeping the lights on at your organization. So what we've done there in that respect is we've built a series of line of business applications which one can then install onto your Hornbill collaboration platform, which allow you then to work in a collaborative fashion, but doing the line of business objective that you have as an employee of your organization. So in the context of today's presentation, we're going to be talking about Hornbill Service Manager, which is, I guess, our flagship application in this respect. And what that offers you is the ability to deliver your IT service management, or in general terms your enterprise service management across your organization, but to do that in a collaborative fashion. And we'll talk a little bit more at length about what we mean by collaborative service management over the coming slides. But needless to say, one can go into the Hornbill App Store and install a number of different apps that are either line of business or productivity related, and again, it's as quick and easy as installing an app on one's phone to do so. So we're going to talk today about our innovation with collaborative service management, and what do we mean by that? Well, in essence, what we're talking about here is taking our collaborative platform, our line of business apps, putting them together to deliver a solution which in its own right will deliver to you as an organization a number of key benefits. Here are a couple of those benefits. Number one, being able to share knowledge and ideas much more readily. Number two, being able to collaborate globally to boost your productivity, and most importantly, be able to work from anywhere. So Hornbill's solution is built around a couple of simple premises, and the first of those is the notion of effective communication. Naturally built on a collaboration platform, this becomes I guess an essential part of what you do, and one of the key tenets of the Hornbill solution is that it's available anywhere, at any time, and on any device. Okay, it's a cloud-based solution, and as such one can access it from wherever. Above and beyond that, one of the challenges we've tried to address here for organizations is one of language. The world's a lot smaller now than it was when we started in the service management space 20 years ago. our customers, your customers, they're globally diverse, and in the context of doing business today, it's very uncommon not to end up working with people in different languages. So one of the things that Hornbill does offer is the ability to communicate across the language barrier, which enables teams to work more closely, but also you to support customers across the language barrier as well. One of the other key tenets that we look to address here is the concept of explicit versus tacit knowledge. We're all familiar with explicit knowledge from a service management perspective. That's the procedures, the process documents, the stuff that we can easily document and articulate and store away in our knowledge base. Tacit knowledge seeks to address that more conversational knowledge, and we've all done it. You're working on an issue, you know that one of your colleagues is the expert or the subject matter expert in that area, and you'll fire them a quick email and they'll fire you back the response to your question, and you'll go about your day and fix the issue. That tacit knowledge, that knowledge that's shared conversationally, is something that's a very powerful resource for any organisation, and trying to find a way to tap into that and to record that knowledge for reuse is a powerful concept that we at Hornbill believe can transform the way that your organisation works, and we'll show you a little bit more about that as we go through today's presentation. The third area that I just wanted to touch on here in terms of the Hornbill cornerstones is the concept of software versus service, and I talked earlier on about the concept of on-premise software and first generation cloud or SaaS solutions. Really what we're trying to identify here is the differentiation between software and service, and whether it's an on-premise tool or a first generation tool, the underpinning factor there is that most of those tools are presented as a piece of software that's hosted for you, or either hosted on site in the case of on-premise, but certainly in the first generation SaaS world, it's a solution that's hosted off-site for you by the vendor. And what makes it a hosted piece of software is the fact that traditionally the way that piece of software is written doesn't differ too much from the way software has always been written, in the sense that every year, every 12 months, every 6 months or so, there's a major release cycle where a bunch of software features and functionality get dumped out and by the vendor, and it's on you as the customer then to take the time out to plan, test, execute that upgrade to make sure that new functionality now becomes available to you. If you're thinking about that in the converse, what Hornbill seeks to do for our customers is to provide an as-a-service solution. So what we offer at Hornbill is a native cloud application that's delivered as a service. And in very simple terms, the way that works is we use a process called continuous deployment in our development, and what that actually means is that each and every new feature is released and made available automatically to all our customers the moment it's ready, and it's entirely automated, so there is no requirement for our customers to stop, to plan, to test, to execute, to request any kind of upgrade. It's all seamless. So much like your consumer apps like Google or Facebook or any of those kind of apps that you might be familiar with outside of work, there is no concept of having to stop to do upgrades, and as a result of those being automatic, you have a couple of key benefits. The first one is you're always up to date and complete with the latest features, so you never fall behind on functionality. You get all the benefits of all the innovation that Hornbill does and all the functionality that we add into the solutions for you, and it's all delivered as a service, if you like. Secondly, there's no service disruption. Hornbill takes care of all of that, and it's all done seamlessly in the background, so you never have to worry about planning for outages and disruptions effectively. And third, but finally, not by any least, the customizations that you make in respect to your Hornbill service manager solution, whether that's form design, process design, whatever that might be, all of that is guaranteed to keep working and operating as Hornbill continues to release and push out these automated updates to your service. So with that all said, I'm going to hand over to Steve here, who's going to take you through a brief demonstration of the Hornbill Service Manager solution and talk to you a bit more about what our collaborative IT service management offering. And so once Steve's done so, I will come back and we'll wrap up with a few slides here just to talk a little bit more about the Hornbill difference and give you an idea of some of the costs for the Hornbill Service Management solution.
We're going to take a look at some of the functionality that underpins the Hornbill Service Manager solution. We'll look at the end user's experience and how we can encourage them to self-help, access knowledge and information. We'll look at the ways Hornbill empowers both analysts and managers to work in a more natural, collaborative way when delivering the services to their customers. And finally, we'll have a look at the reporting and advanced analytics options available, which will enable you to better monitor performance and identify if and where both service can be improved and efficiencies achieved. Okay, so let's get started. The Hornbill service and customer portals support transparent single sign-on and are available in any language and can be branded and customised codelessly. Each customer, internal or external, will receive a tailored experience when they use the portals based on the services that they are subscribed to. Here we can see that Steve has some favourite services. We can see where he has active requests raised against services he uses, and we can also see where he has issues against services he consumes. He also has the option to look at all of the services that may be provided by different service providers within the business. If we take an example here where Steve's working from home, he has an issue connecting to the corporate network, he can simply come to his self-service portal, access his home working service, and see whether there's actually any information that may be able to allow him to self-help. Now that might be in the form of bulletins or information that's been pushed out against each service. And the key thing here is that Steve will only see news and information that's relevant to the services he's subscribed to. He won't be bombarded with information that isn't relevant. So the first one we have a look at, if there's any known issues that might be relevant to Steve here, and if there's any workaround information that's going to allow him to self-help. So we might actually see here that there is a known issue, but there might not be any workaround information. What's the quickest and easiest way for Steve to let the problem management team know that he's actually impacted by this known issue? Well, he can simply choose the Me Too option. This will let the team know that he's an impacted user. He doesn't have to log a repeat incident, thus taking time for him, and also enforcing the problem management team having to go looking for those repeat incidents. And by adding himself as an impacted user here, he will also be then on the communication chain for when the workaround or the resolution for that particular known issue is identified. But we can say here actually there aren't any known issues for Steve's issue connecting to the VPN. So maybe there's some information or knowledge that's been published that might again allow him to self-help. And that knowledge and that content can be in the form of embedded media, videos and such like. It could be embedded images, or it could be very simplistic instructions in text-only format. It's entirely up to you. But again, if we say there's no known issues, there's no FAQs available to Steve on this occasion, this is where we can come in and introduce our request catalogue. This is where we can see the options that Steve has available to him. He could, if he wanted to, actually request a callback, and that could raise a ticket and have it scheduled with the relevant team. Or maybe he hasn't actually set the VPN software up at the moment, and he might want to schedule that in again with the appropriate team. Or in this occasion, he might simply want to go ahead and report an issue. So we're just going to put in here he's unable to connect to the VPN, and we'll go ahead and submit that. Now what we're using here is our progressive capture functionality. This allows you to codelessly create questions, branch questions, just to collect the relevant information you need. And we'll go ahead here, ask one question, associate Steve's laptop or home desktop, and we'll go ahead and have that ticket raised and have it routed to the appropriate resolver team. On doing so, Steve has clear visibility through the heads-up display of the underlying business process that the support team will be following to resolve his issue. Here we can see the stages they're going to go through, and we can see via the checkpoints what's been achieved and what's still outstanding. Now that's great if Steve knew where to start, but typically businesses will have tens, hundreds of services that they offer, and it's very difficult for an end user to know exactly where to start looking for that information. So here we provide a federated search option that will simply allow Steve to come in and enter the search of what he's actually looking for. And if we take the example here where he's looking for anything that's VPN related, we will instantly be shown the known issues or any FAQs that might help Steve, or where he needs to go within the catalogues to actually raise an issue. And if we change that up slightly and say, well, actually Steve needs to request a new mobile, he can simply use that same search option to look at the knowledge pertaining to the company's policy around replacement mobiles, and he can also come into the catalogue and be directed immediately to where he needs to go to request that mobile, and also back into a progressive capture, which will provide him with the questions, the information that he needs to provide, and again have that routed to the appropriate resolver team. So that's great when we're looking at the end user's experience, but let's have a look at actually what the analysts or our managers will actually see. Well, first and foremost, they're going to see notifications about that request that Steve has just raised here. Now they can pick those notifications up through the browser that we're looking at here. They can equally pick up those notifications on either the iOS or Android apps which are available, or they may prefer to pick those up via email as well. But let's have a look at actually those services, or what underpins those services that Steve saw on the portal. So we'll just go down to our services option and we'll have a look at our home working service. This is where we can come in and define the services that we offer and include all the information I'm sure you're expecting to see. So these services can be in the relevant portfolio status. So this one is currently live, it's in the catalogue. We can see who owns the service and whether it's private. We can see which teams support that service, and that's really key when we're looking at visibility of tickets and requests and who we can assign the request to again when tickets are raised against that service. We can also see who's subscribed to that service and how they're subscribed. The configuration options then allow us to look at whether we allow instance and service requests to be raised against those services, and if we do, what are the catalogue items that we want to provide. We can also come in here to manage form design and add fields that are specific to the service request form for tickets raised against that particular service. We can also come in and define those bulletins that we saw across the carousel in the self-service portal, and where we'll come in to both create, edit and retire FAQs, and also look at how often they've been viewed and whether they've been rated as useful or not. But we can also then start to look at actually what enables us to actually provide that service. What CIs or infrastructure actually enables us to do that. And we can look at that simply as assets that have been linked to this service, or we could go ahead and actually explore that service. And using this graphical view here, we can look at not only the requests that have been raised against that service, but what underpins it. We can reduce some of that noise down by just getting rid of the requests, and here we can now look at the hardware and the software that underpins that service. We can look at which of our customers' laptops and PCs are connected to the hardware. We can look at the software that's provided, and we can also look at the bi-directional relationships that have been formed between the services and the CIs, and also look at the impact of those relationships that we've defined. Coming back up though and having a look at perhaps some of the more familiar areas, we can have a look at our request list. Now this is a context sensitive view that's available to our analysts, which will show them the requests they're entitled to see based on the teams that they belong to, and also based on the request types they've got the permissions to use. Now for argument's sake, if my user here, Daniel, didn't have the rights to work with change, he wouldn't see the change icon. But here I can flip between any of the default options that are provided, so I can look at the requests I own personally, or ones that belong to a specific team, or ones that belong to any of the teams I'm a member of, or potentially any tickets that have been raised against services that my team supports. So here I'll just refilter my list to all request types and all teams that I belong to. And we can see the request list is then made up of a variety of those calls. We can go ahead and quickly find information on these requests by using the multifunctional filter. Here we can see I can filter down just to VPN issues, or if I'm interested in what my colleague Brian is working on at the moment, I can filter that list. Or if I happen to be on the phone to a customer, maybe I just want to have a look at what are all of Anna's current tickets and discuss those with her. But as well as having those default options, each analyst can come in and create their own views. This provides a powerful way in which the analysts can have control over the views and the way they want to work. So let's drill in and have a look at this high priority incident view that I've defined. Here, the analyst doesn't need any technical knowledge or skills to be able to create their own views. They don't need to understand the back-end database that sits behind the solution. They can simply come in and say, I'm interested in looking at the high priority request type where it's incident and any incidents that are actually still open. Now that's great in terms of being able to look at those lists, but it also allows me then to start creating content for my own personal dashboard. And here I can actually create charts to look at, maybe which of my teams are actually supporting those high priority incidents, or within those teams, which individual analysts are looking after those tickets, which sites are impacted by those high priority incidents, and potentially which individual customers have been impacted as well. Once I've actually got those charts in place, I can simply toggle between my traditional request list view and my personal dashboard view. And because it is my personal dashboard, if I want to move things around, make them larger or smaller, I absolutely can. And if I want to drill down into any particular part of a chart and take me back to that request list, I can. Obviously, I can go in and look at those particular requests, or if I so desire, I can export that data to CSV, choosing the content that I want to export with me. Now, typically at this point, we can have a look at actually how we go about raising requests. We do have 4 options available to you. We've already had a quick look at the self-service portal options. The second option is raising them manually, which we'll come on to in a second. The third option is integrating with your corporate mailboxes or your shared mailboxes. And here we provide you the ability to view those mailboxes through the Hornbill interface. And here we've got choices as to whether we want to have those emails visible here and to manually review them and either create a new ticket or apply them to an existing ticket, or using an email autoresponder utility, we can actually set some rules and say if an email's come from a particular domain, or if there's particular words in the subject or the body, we want a ticket to be raised and routed to a particular resolver team automatically, or equally, if a reference number is spotted in the subject line, we may want to automatically apply that to the existing ticket. The fourth option that we have available is actually raising tickets via third-party tools, and we have fully published XML APIs that will let you invoke that from third-party applications and raise tickets directly. So just before we go ahead and raise a ticket in Service Manager, I just want to introduce a couple of concepts that underpin the power and the flexibility of Service Manager. So I've just gone to the admin tool here, and I'm going to start by having a look at the business processes. And here that we can see that we do ship with out-of-the-box instant problem change request fulfillment processes, but we also give you the ability to come in and configure and build your own. One of the key tenets here with Service Manager is that it's not prescriptive in terms of how you should work. It gives you the ability to build your processes as you want to work. A couple of good examples of that might be if you were using instant management and you wanted to introduce service levels into that. We don't dictate that you have to use a fix and a response timers. We don't tell you when those timers should start, and we don't tell you when they should be marked as being achieved. All of that is configured within the business processes you define. Now, the business processes are built easily and intuitively using the graphical drag and drop canvas, and this is where you can come in and you can set routing rules. You can do round robin assignment or assignment to specific teams. You can set up email notifications. You can define tasks, approvals, decision points and checklists. Within this we can set one or multiple stages for your processes, and in this example change process we've got 4 stages, and within those stages we've got multiple checkpoints that we want to achieve as we go through that. And the beauty of this is all of this maturity is then hidden behind a graphical heads-up display for either the end user to consume or for the teams that are working through your incidents or your changes to understand the process. Coming back up though and looking at the other side of this, which is really to do with the logging experience, we introduce progressive capture. Now, progressive capture is really designed to replace all the problems and challenges that are associated with some of the more legacy service management solutions that are out there, which pretty much present you with a big logging form with lots of fields, and depending on what type of request you're logging, you have to fill in fields A, B, C and D, and for others it's F, G and H. Very difficult to get people in front of that and get them working efficiently and quickly. That's very different to the experience that you have when you're booking a holiday online or you're looking to take out car insurance. You go to these websites and they simply ask you one guided question at a time, and depending on your answer they'll branch through to relevant related questions. And what we've done here is actually provide you with the ability to define those questions and that logic and that branching, and again do that graphically and easily with this drag and drop canvas, and then present a very intuitive way for your analysts or your end users to actually ask the questions, and depending on the answers, branch to any related information that needs to be captured. So with that in mind, let's go back and have a look at what that looks like in practice. So here I come back to my request list, and I could go ahead and raise an incident or a service request if I was so desired, or I can actually say, well actually let's let's capture some information before we decide what request type it is. So here I can actually search for the customer, so I'm going to use Steve on this occasion. Here we can see all the information about Steve. We can see which active requests he has available, and perhaps Steve is simply calling for an update on an active ticket. If he is, I can give him that information and we can move on. If he's not, then we might want to go ahead and actually raise a ticket against one of the services that Steve takes from us. Now, if it was a defined service with request catalogue items all in place, I can simply come in here as the analyst and choose which option to log the ticket against. If it wasn't and we need to capture some information, here I'm going to follow the desktop support route. And this is now going through our progressive capture and based on my decisions branching to the next forms that need to be asked. So here I'm just going to keep with this and we'll say there's a VPN issue, unable to access from home. I'm going to click on next and I'm going to say here, well actually, now I know who I'm talking to, what service it's being raised against, the details of the issue. Is this actually a break fix issue? Is it an instant? Or maybe it's a service request? Well, logically it's an instant, so I'm going to follow that route. And on doing so, maybe it then asks me for a categorization, maybe that's mandatory or not. Maybe I'm asked to put a priority against this, and again, that may be a mandatory option or not. These questions are just examples, and you can use as few or as many as you actually need. I'm going to associate the user's laptop with this, and then I'm going to go ahead and just raise that request in the Service Manager. This will be automatically routed to the relevant team, and we can see here that a confirmation email has been sent to the user. We can go ahead and now view that request, and again we can see the heads-up display which represents the fulfillment process that's running. We can see that the email was sent, we can see that it's been assigned to a particular support team, the priority was set, and as a result of that it's kicked off a resolution timer against this particular request. And the first thing it's now actually done is taken me in context on my action bar as to where I need to perform this next action, which is actually just for someone into that team to actually take ownership. So I'm logged in here as Graham. I'm going to pick that up and take ownership. On doing so, that we can see that the analyst allocated checkpoint's been achieved. We move on to the next stage, and actually an activity has been created for someone to look into that. That could have been assigned to the owner, a named individual, a role, or a group. But there are a lot of manual options that are available here. Now I'm not going to go through them all, but you do have options where you can take screenshots and add those in. We'll just take a screenshot here. And we can simply cut and paste that into the ticket. That might be the error, and we can go ahead and add that. All of the updates get added in line into the timeline, which is your audit trail. Now we could share media here, or we could do searches of external content if we wanted. We can schedule callbacks, we can drag and drop multiple attachments. We could even go looking for related tickets. So if I wanted to see if there was any other VPN tickets that were active at the moment, here I can see changes and incidents and problems. There's 34 in total, far too many that's for me to sort of read through. So I want to limit that down just to see if there's actually any active problems at the moment. So we'll refine that search. Here I can see that there's been a reported VPN instability issue for users. I can drill in, have a look at the detail, but if I wanted to, I could then also link my incident to that particular problem. And on doing so, if that problem had a workaround that was defined, that solution could be automatically cascaded down to me. Now, other options you've got on here, looking at this collaborative IT service management messaging here, is I could choose to follow that request. Now, by following that request, all of the updates for that request are going to be pushed up to my newsfeed. I could also, when I'm working on this request, assign that request away or create activities for my colleagues. But what I could also do is drop in subject matter experts as I need them. So here I might actually want to put in Rosemary, our change manager. I might want to add her as a member. Now this elevates Rosemary's rights to actually look at this ticket. Maybe she wasn't a member of my team or didn't have the rights to work with incidents. By elevating her rights, she can be invited into this request. I can also come back in and I could actually mention Rosemary. I can see whether she's online, and I can say, actually, Rosemary, this is the assistance I need. Rosemary, can you look at this, please? Rosemary will then get a targeted communication. She again can pick it up through a notification. She can pick it up through her native iOS or Android apps. All of those options are available to you. Other options we've got here is the ability to raise link requests. So I might want to go up from this instance to a problem or a known error, or I might want to jump straight up to a change. And by doing so, it will take us back through that progressive capture experience. And I'm just going to go ahead and complete the questions that are on here. So I might want to define the type of change, who's impacted. I might want to define, in my opinion, what the risk assessment for that is, or add additional assets. On doing so, when that change is raised, again, we can see the heads-up display, which represents the fulfillment process for this particular change. And we can see here it's a different set of stages and checkpoints that we have to go through. And I'm not going to go ahead and do all of those in this video. I'm just going to step through a couple of examples here. So I've taken ownership. I'm now going to look and see from a change management team's perspective whether this change is valid and worth looking at. Here I might put in here, looks valid, worth reviewing. I can then choose from the definable outcomes that I've set. I can also, if it's important, record time that we're spending here. And if I want to, I can push time into our timesheet app. I'm going to mark this one as valid, which will move that process on. And in doing so, it now goes into the planning stage where we might have impact assessment work, security assessments, etc. that we want to carry out. Now this is great when we're working on individual tickets, but what if I'm the change manager or I'm the service delivery manager and I want an overview of all the changes that are in flight against my change process at any given time? Well, here we can introduce our visual boards, and I'm going to have a look at our change management board here. Here we can see a real-time bird's eye view of all of those changes that are running against your change process, and we can see these split into the life cycle stages. We can see the changes that are incoming, those that are currently being assessed and that change that we've just raised, those that are with CAB, have been approved and are currently in progress. This gives you a fantastic way of seeing what's happening without the actual need for any drilling down or manual intervention to move these requests across. The business process will automatically take care of the movement of those cards. But we can also use these boards for managing internal development cycles. We could use them for managing your procurement requests, or we could even use them from an incident management perspective, looking at your service levels and looking at which incidents are going to breach today or in the next couple of hours, or in fact have already breached, supported obviously by email notifications, reassignments, etc. So coming back up here and looking at this from a collaborative ITSM perspective, I'm going to introduce the news feed. This is really a place where information is pushed to each analyst based on the topics that are important to them. So at the top of here we can see changes that have been published into a change management workspace, and we can see that they've been raised, they've been implemented, and no further action is required. I can see documents that have been shared with me. I can see workspaces that I'm a member of. And these workspaces can be used for notifying members about major incidents or problems that are ongoing or changes that we've looked at. But they're fantastic facilities to actually come together to leverage what we call tacit knowledge. So here we can create a first line FAQ workspace, and we can invite the first line members. We can bring in the second line team or the subject matter experts, and we can provide a facility where James can come in and say, look, my customer's got this issue at the moment, and his peers and his colleagues can come in and provide their answers, and they can provide answers in their native language, and James can use the translate option to view the answers in his. And that's brilliant that we can provide answers, but our other colleagues can come in and validate those answers. And James can now have confidence that on this occasion, perhaps Pablo's answer is the one that he wants to use that's going to go and solve his customer's issue. Now that's brilliant in the here and now, and it helps James out, but it also means that moving forward, all of that content is searchable and accessible. So if I wanted to look for anything to do with our VPN software going forward, I can do a search for everything that's Shrusoft related. Again, it's going to return me relevance results, and there might be a lot of results, so I might want to narrow that down. I might want to look at only things that were posted in the last 3 or 6 months since we did our last upgrade, or things that were posted by Jim because he's our network specialist. Or I might simply just want to narrow it down to anything that was posted in that particular workspace. So here I can come in, I can see that another question's been asked, an answer's been provided, and validation's been given by my peers that that's a good quality answer to use. Now we also recognise that it's not just tacit sort of formal knowledge that we want to capture. There's also a need for structured knowledge as well, and here we can have a look at our document manager app. So using document tags here, I might want to have a look at our change management process. So I'm going to have a search for that, find that document. Here I can see the document I can see who it's been shared with and what rights they have. I can see whether this document's been worked on and any revisions have been stored against that. We can provide tags for those documents, which obviously help with searching, but also allow me to create self-organising collections. Each document, like a request, like an asset, like a user, will have a timeline. This is because they're first-class social objects in their own right. We want to have the ability to discuss and collaborate on the content, regardless of what that actual entity is. Once we're ready and the document's ready to be published, we can mark it as active, and if we want to, push this out into wider libraries. Now, Document Manager, as we see here, and our Timesheet Manager app, or even our Customer Manager app here, are just other examples of line of business applications that are provided on the platform. And they sit alongside activities and tasks and approvals that come together regardless of which application they've been generated in. We also provide instant messaging that allow one-to-one or group conversations on the platform. And all of this comes together really to provide that collaborative service management solution. But if we've gone to the effort of putting all of this data together, we want to have a look at what output we can get from that. And this is where we can come back and have a look at our advanced analytics, which sit alongside those personal dashboards that we saw earlier. So first and foremost, the Hornbill solution is delivered with a trending engine, which allows you to build measures to look at, for example, your average time to resolve tickets, or how many tickets you're resolving on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And the key thing here really is to set targets for those measures and decide whether you're looking at these daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and then see how you're performing against those measures or those targets that you've set, and see what the trend line is looking like. And once you've happily got these up and running, we can come back and we can create widgets. We can create charts or scorecards or data lists. We can add those widgets onto role-based dashboards. We can share those dashboards with teams or individuals. Or what we might want to do if we've got a lot of data is actually daisy chain multiple dashboards together, which will allow a lot of data to be served up and presented. And this is probably the quickest and easiest way just to give you a feel for the type of content that you can present here. Some very visual aspects and also more graphical, looking month-on-month comparisons, year-on-year, but also looking at things like what knowledge is being accessed, which FAQs are being viewed or not viewed, who's providing feedback, how are we performing against our service level targets. All of that information is easily consumable. I hope you found a lot of this information useful today, and thanks for watching.
Thanks, Steve. Great presentation. So just to close out, I thought I would take us back through and have a look at the Hornbill core values very quickly, and then we'll take a look at the Hornbill commercial offering and sum up with some of the key differentiators around the Hornbill solution. So let's step forward. So first and foremost, the core values. The first of our three values is customer first. Naturally, it does what it says on the tin. We put our customers first in everything that we do. Secondly, we believe in partnership through collaboration, and we seek to engage as closely as possible with our customers, whether that's through our communities, our forums, but customers have a key part to play in the Hornbill service and the solution in terms of the functionality and the features that we add to the solution going forwards. Thirdly, quality not compromised, and needless to say, a cloud service has to be a quality experience, and we strive to make sure that is the case every day. So we talked a bit about innovation from a technology perspective, but in terms of innovation around commercials, one of the things that Hornbill have sought to do here is to de-risk the whole process for our customers as best we can. So we all know that picking a new service management solution and committing to investing into that solution is a big challenge, and there is lots of risk involved. So what we've sought to do here is to give our customers the opportunity to really understand and get to a position where they can make an informed choice as to whether Hornbill is the right solution for them, and we do that all at our cost. So what we offer you effectively is a 30-day satisfaction guarantee as a customer. That gives you the chance to satisfy yourself that the solution does what it needs to do, it performs, will work in the way that you need it to work, and it's only at that point that you then are in a position to make a choice as to whether it's something that you want to take forward. So how does that work? Well, in essence, we give you the chance to put Hornbill to the test, and we do that in three ways. First and foremost, we give you access to the Hornbill service free of charge for 30 days. Now, over and above that, we then add free implementation into the mix. So we'll allocate a product specialist to your account, and they will work closely with you to implement the Hornbill solution, to import your data, to get the system stood up, to customize and configure the system as you need it to be. At this point, we also provide free training. So we'll actually train people at your end on how to own and manage the Hornbill system going forward, should you choose to take Hornbill on and start to subscribe. And it's only after we've had all of these three things in place and that you have in effect got a working system up and running with your data, your configurations, your processes in there, that we actually give you the choice to decide whether this is a solution for you or not. So it's only after all of that has happened that you get to choose to accept or reject the Hornbill solution. Should you accept at this point, that's when you would start to subscribe. If you reject, then we walk away, you walk away, no hard feelings. So that said, what makes Hornbill stand out from the crowd? Well, what's different about Hornbill? Well, just to recap, the first is service, not software. So unlike an on-premise tool or a first generation SaaS solution, there is no concept of upgrades. You literally are taking on an as a service solution from Hornbill. We deliver the service, you do your job. Updates are automatic, your customizations keep working, and you always have the latest features with nothing to do but log in and do your job. Price for life. One of the key things that we try to set aside for our customers is to make sure that you have certainty about what you're paying. So one of the guarantees that we offer as an organization within our contracts is the concept of price for life. So the price you sign up at today is the price you pay for the term of your, or for the tenure as a customer. So at any point in the future, Hornbill changes its pricing, you're insulated against that. You have the certainty to know that you're going to pay in 3, 4, 5 years time exactly what you're paying today. Now that comes with a couple of benefits. One is you get automatic discounts over time based on inflation, but also more importantly, you get more value all the time, because as we continuously add new features and functionality to the solution, which rolls out automatically to you, you continue to pay the price that you subscribed at and the price point where you joined as a customer. So I don't think you'll see that anywhere else. Train for life. So again, we talked earlier on about the skills gap that exists when your expert gets promoted, leaves, or finds a new challenge. Well, one of the things we've done as a company is embrace that, and all you need to do is let us know who that new person is that's going to take on that challenge, and we will train them for free, and we'll continue to do that for as long as you're a customer. And the last one here is the concept of contract tie-in. Kind of bucking the trend with the market a little bit here, in that we don't look to tie anyone down. So when you subscribe to Hornbill, having been through your 30-day free trial and the free implementation, what you're actually signing up to is a rolling contract that has no term and no lock-in. So in essence, you stay as a customer for as long as you want to be a customer. So one of the core tenets we have here is that we believe in happy customers, not contractually bound customers. So you won't find any 3, 4, 5 year lock-ins in our contracts. It's a very straightforward relationship. We build a high quality service, and you stay for as long as you feel that you're getting good value. So how much does all this goodness cost? Well, it always sounds better in Italian. So we have a very simple, transparent pricing plan, and it's built for small teams, medium teams, or large. It's very scalable, and being a native cloud solution, that can be used across the globe. In simple terms, it's £42.50 per user per month, and that volume pricing scales as you add more users, such that the price falls for every additional user. And it's probably worth just noting, when I talked a moment ago about the price for life guarantee, which basically means that you pay what you pay at the point you sign up for as long as you're a customer. It's this green curve, this price plan that you sign up to, which essentially says the more users you add, the less you pay per user, but it's that plan that you sign up to and is guaranteed for life. So what next? Well, if you like what you've seen today, we'd love to speak to you, so feel free to get in touch. Contact us on hello@hornbill.com, take a product tour, or visit the website and take some time to see a little bit more of what we have to offer. We hope to speak to you soon.